Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
We are in the process of opening the Housing and Urban Development uh, and Zoning Committee meeting, which we refer to as HUDs, for this day. And Madam Clerk, I'd like to ask you to please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Gunther.
Here.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderman Todd.
Here.
Alderwoman Evans.
Present.
Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Gross. Alderman Lappy.
Present.
Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker.
Present.
Chair Davis.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Gross. Alderwoman Keys. We have 9 present. You have
Does anyone want me to unmute? Okay, I just want to.
sorry.
Hold on, please. So we've completed our roll call. Madam Clerk, do we have minutes for approval?
Yes, ma'am. Minutes are approved for December 15th, 2022.
Chair will accept a motion.
I'll move that we accept the minutes from December 15th, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Gross. Alderman Lappy.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Walker.
Aye.
Chair Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Peel.
Aye.
Alderman Gross.
This is to approve the minutes. I'm sorry, I just joined.
Yes,
Aye.
we have 12 aye votes.
Thank you very much. As we move forward in this agenda today, there will be an opportunity for a lot of understanding, a lot of reflection of past and present, and also the ability for us to have better understanding of how the St. Louis Development Corporation operates, and also some of the programming that is from the past, from Slate, and in the future, and that is also on the planning board. Madam Clerk, I know I had talked to a couple of people, so we have no board bills on this agenda today.
No, ma'am, there's no board bills on the agenda. I have 2 discussions.
Right. And so our first discussion that we'd like to open is with the St. Louis Development Corporation, please. And we do have some speakers. Could you please indicate to us who is available that's going to speak?
I have 2 speakers, Neil Richardson and Zach Wilson from SLDC.
Okay. President Richardson, would you like to open, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam
Right.
Chair, and the HUDs Committee for the opportunity to discuss the new incentive policy program that we are rolling out at SLDC in 2023. So as you all are aware, SLDC has gone through a revisioning and rebranding of who we are, and really repositioning and building trust with community and helping create more clear processes and policies for developers and for the public to clearly understand how development decisions are being made. And so as we are looking into the future, of SLDC, we have a focus on empowering, developing, and transforming the city through a more vibrant, just, and growing economy in which all people can thrive. And we rolled out our Economic Justice Action Plan in September at the Mayor's Business Luncheon of 2022. And through that plan, we have 3 core pillars. That's economic empowerment, equitable and inclusive development, and neighborhood transformation. As you all may have seen over the last week, in our economic empowerment pillar, we opened the Economic Empowerment Center at Sumner High School that creates greater proximity for women, small minority-owned business enterprises within the city of St. Louis to have access to become certified, access to capital. And as you think about our incentivized projects, every incentivized project, whether it's abatement, TIF, or any public funding that goes to these projects, they are required to meet the WMBE goals and policies through our ordinances. And so that is an additional incentive that we have in place to ensure that our women and minority-owned business enterprises or on these large-scale projects, getting the resources they need, but then also we have residency goals that are attached to these projects, in which the developers that receive any incentive are required to hire a percentage of city residents as well as apprentices to ensure that we're growing the workforce of the future. And so as we are rolling out our new Economic Justice Action Plan, it's about equitable growth and centering people in our city residents, prioritizing them first, making sure they have the resources they need to grow, scale, and enter into their respective industries, but then also ensuring that the neighborhoods that have been underinvested and disinvested receive the greatest economic opportunity, and that we are incentivizing developers to come to areas that have been historically underinvested, but then also ensuring that many of the projects, the large-scale development projects that are happening in some of our growing areas within the city are also having a higher bar of public benefit that they're contributing. And we've seen that already come and pay dividends through Procter & Gamble on the riverfront, in which we have a partnership with the St. Louis Public Schools, in which Procter & Gamble is entered into an MOU with the St. Louis Public School Foundation to support not only the current students, but also the alumni of St. Louis Public School to ensure that they have opportunities to many of the growing industries. We've also seen opportunities with like the Armory Project and also with McCree, with Green Street, where they've contributed dollars to support development in North St. Louis City, to support infrastructure, to support many of the public services and needs that we have as a community at large. And so as we continue to roll out the incentive policy, we are raising the bar for public benefit, ensuring that the development projects that are happening, again, in areas that have been historically disinvested, that we are contributing towards them, but also the areas that are continuing to grow, that we have accessible housing that's maintained. And we have created a new scorecard that will be rolling out as we evaluate every project. Historically, SLDC has focused on the financial returns of a project as we think about incentives, but we're turning it on our head. We're putting the public first, we're putting our residents first. And so we are evaluating the public benefit and the social impact of these projects, in addition to the financial benefit that these projects will return to the city long-term. Because we know that we need to continue to grow our tax base. We know we need to continue to attract residents to our city. Since 1953, the city of St. Louis has had a declining population. And if we want to turn that tide, we must continue to work and partner with developers by giving them a clear process and policy that they can understand, and that we can compete at the city of St. Louis against other municipalities, against other states, to ensure that our residents have access to the amenities, to the grocery stores, to the healthcare services, and to the education that they deserve. And so with that, I'll pass it over to our Director of Incentives, Mr. Zach Wilson, who will give you an overview of the new incentive process, as well as a quick overview of the scorecard. And then we'll open it up to any questions that individuals may have. So Zach, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Neil. Give me 1 second. Let me share the screen here. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Like Neil said, this process started over a year ago. We had focus group surveys from all across the different types of groups, St. Louis Public Schools, CDCs from North and South City, critics, Board of Aldermen. So we had a wide, vast interest groups that were put information into this. Well, we contracted with Baker Tilly. It's a nationally known company that delves into government affairs, financial institutions. We kind of looked, the first thing they did was delve into what we were doing currently and looked at how that was best practices with other similar cities across the country. And what they found was the financial piece was okay. They beefed up the cost benefit analysis and return analysis a little bit, but our major thing was the community benefit scorecard. They found a lot of communities across the country have a scorecard, but it doesn't have much teeth to it. So what we are doing here is providing a scorecard at the beginning of the process. And with that scorecard, that basically tells the developer if you pass or fail right off the bat, and also sets the maximum amount of abatement you can receive moving forward. So it's clear, it's precise. Not only the developer understands it, but the public will understand clearly also. So the first, I'd like to go through the process overview. This process overview, where hopefully will be adopted by the LCRA board on January 24th. So I'd like to come back later on, probably after January 24th, to get more details on everything on what just was approved by LCRA. But the initial process would be the application, then the community scorecard would be next, then the rate term analysis, cost benefit analysis. Rate term analysis, basically what the return to the developer is acceptable or not. And the cost benefit analysis, basically what's coming to the taxing districts, is that acceptable? Then the developer vetting and the development negotiations and neighborhood engagement. Neighborhood engagement would be different per the size of the development. The larger the development, the more neighborhood engagement would be. Larger developments would require a certain amount of meetings. Smaller developments, probably just a neighborhood letter would be acceptable. But steps 1 through 7 would be all done before even the project gets to the LCRA board and the Board of Aldermen. So by the time you guys would see the project, we would have packets of how the packets information in with the board bill on how this project scores in the community scorecard, community engagement, developer vetting. All these would have little summaries with the board bill. So it would be a complete package. So there'd be no second guessing what was this project moving forward. And after it passes the Board of Aldermen, we would have a development agreement on any project over $1 million. Projects over $1 million have minority compliance requirements, prevailing wage requirements. Another thing we found that these are two very good programs the city runs and requires on these types of projects. But our neighbors around us do not have these requirements. I like to point that out, and that kind of is a disadvantage for our projects, but it's a huge benefit for our residents here. So we need to be honest with ourselves that when we require these, it's extra demands on a developer. And cities like Clayton and Chesterfield do not have these demands. So we had to be clear and upfront with that type of reasoning on when we do these type of things too. So On the,
Excuse me, Zach, could you kind of make that a little larger?
yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Is that better?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
So I'll go with the community scorecard right now. The requirements for the scorecard would be, you would have to score over 30 points to even receive any type of abatement. So points 30 to 40 would maximum abatement you would receive is 10%, 10 years at 80%. 40 to 50 for residential would be 15 years abatement, and 50 plus would be 25 years of abatement for residential. For commercial, the max you could get is 20 years. And those type of projects, the 20 years mixed use, we see kind of more of the, like the White Elephant projects, the Railroad Exchange, those type of buildings, Cleveland High School, those type of things are major assets in the neighborhood that we would like to see funded. We're still, sorry for this the document seems a little strange, but we're finalizing the numbers here. I'm gonna go through this residential scorecard. The points will be adjusted a little bit for the El Cerrito board, so I will come back to you in the next few weeks to show the final scores. But these are the type of things we'd be scoring: capital investment, walkability, transit access, public infrastructure improvements, minority-owned business, geography. Geography and affordable housing are the two largest points you can achieve. I'll go down to that. And those two type of things, many of you, if you were here in 2018, there was a major, not major, but we did reform incentives some back in 2018. We adopted a tax abatement map that curbed a lot of the, I say, abuse in stronger areas.
Right.
Exactly. And that cut back. When I got here, we were doing about 60 something projects a year through El Cerrito. After that map, we dipped down to like 40 projects. And also in that resolution we passed, we no longer give out 100% abatements. So the city public schools, taxing districts in the city now gets a certain amount of taxes right off the bat with these projects. Now, in some areas that need more investment, that may be only 5 to 10%, but that's still some money going to public schools. In stronger areas that don't need as much investment, we have dropped the tax abatement down to 50 to 75% on projects. So some of these numbers may change. That's why we'll be happy to come back. Capital investment would be anything over 80 million with 7 points. Public infrastructure, we're actually going to change that. This will be not a dollar amount, but a percentage of the actual project. So if a larger project is $100 million, we would like to see at least 1% to 2% of the project going to a public infrastructure. And if you hit those points, hit those goals, you'll get those type of points for that project. Walkability. Some of these points systems are adjusting because we had input from the planning department, some other groups. So that's the walkability will change a little, but not too much. Transit access. This will actually get smaller. Half a mile anywhere in the city is quite a large spot. So we're going to drop that to a quarter mile. Mm-hmm. Diversity. This is the MAP economic justice plan. It is the certain areas of the city you'll get 30 points right off the bat if you're developing that area. That's certain parts of Southeast City and North City you get 30 points, and it goes down from there. So if you do a project in those areas, you get 30 points right off the bat. And then you could easily get, if you do affordable housing and hit one of those areas in North City or Southeast City, you could easily get 50 points pretty quickly. So minority or women-owned business is 5 or 0 points. Infill development, environmental remediation, historic preservation would be like we say, railroad exchange, those type of buildings, outside funding. It's really, are you bringing any outside sources besides federal and historic tax credits would be helpful here. That's where you score affordable housing. This is the key here, that if you lower the amount of AMI units you produce, the higher points you get. So this will be very clear to the developers of what we're looking for up front. There's no second guessing what we're looking. The goalposts will not change while the negotiations are going forward. This will be straightforward in front of the developer and the public of what we're looking for. So this is something they can come to our website and kind of morph their project into how they can get instead moving forward. The commercial scorecard is the only real difference there is quality jobs and total jobs, I would say. The total jobs is, if you hit over a certain amount of jobs, you get anywhere from 5 to 9 points. Quality jobs is hourly jobs, and then that it's you meet the criteria or not. That's basically what it is. Another thing on moving forward, a lot of the deals that have been made in the past, especially TIFs and the older tax abatements, there was no clawbacks. And in our development agreements moving forward, we will have clawbacks on jobs, total investment, and if any other types of goals that we think is suitable for each particular project. And that's, as Neil knows, we're rolling out a software system here and a compliance department also. So that's highly exciting for us because that's something we can manage projects very quickly and easily instead of moving paper.
Zach, really quickly on that point, SLDC, as many of you know, is the operational, really what I call a behemoth, as we manage 9 different development boards that we're responsible for, right? And we provide the staffing, the back office support, the technology, the operations for all 9 of those boards. And so when you see LCRA, LRA, the Port Authority, SLDC, since I've joined the organization, we've been very strategic on bringing in consultants to help us identify the best software to also help manage the compliance on this. And so as we move forward, and developers enter their applications and the information, it goes into an online database. It will no longer just be Excel spreadsheets. It will be a database that they complete. They can upload their files. We'll have records of that. And then as we manage the compliance on it moving forward, they can upload their financial reports, their job reports into that system for us to review. We also are working on hiring more staff to do the compliance and monitoring, as well as partnering with Baker Tilly on helping with that compliance and monitoring and oversight moving forward. So those are just some, again, operational things that we've invested into over the last year to ensure that we have greater transparency and accountability within SLDC. Sorry, Zach, go ahead before.
That's about it. Like Neil said, on our new website, we'll have a forward-facing link to many of these projects, and the public can easily look at the scorecard and the financial packet on each project moving forward. the developer can have a login moving forward to check how their progress is moving, how their project is, what next steps they have to go through. So we have been thinking this out for a very long time. There's nothing knee-jerk about this. We're listening to everyone, our developers, bankers, public schools, our critics. I'm trying to get everyone's input so we can build this the best way we can and moving forward and provide the public as much information as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's great, Zach. And one of the things that the scorecard and the financial analysis will be able to provide is an overview of the impact on the tax base today and the additional revenue that will be generated, even during the abatement period for the public schools, for the various taxing districts that are impacted by the development. Again, day one, as Zach said, we no longer have 100% abatements. So day one, there's a positive impact to the schools for every one of these projects. But also we are ensuring that we do not over-incentivize these projects. That's why we have the rate of return analysis, the cost benefit analysis that are ran to ensure that the projects are not being over-incentivized. We have, again, national experts that are able to see construction costs, understanding development costs, and being able to evaluate these projects as we are reviewing them to ensure that the sources and uses that are provided by the developers are not inflated in a way in which they are gaming the system, but we are being able to manage and have that third party oversee those things. And so as we are evaluating these projects, as Zach said, it doesn't go into a black box. It goes into an online portal. And so when that information is shared with the Board of Aldermen, is shared publicly, that scorecard, that analysis, and that other information. And so it creates transparency for everyone. It doesn't leave it at the whims of one person decisions. It keeps it very open. And our goal is to ensure that every project gets vetted publicly. No behind the scenes deals being cut, but we are able to fully have an open discussion about these projects, engage the neighborhoods, have open forums, and then ensure that when these projects go before the Board of Aldermen, you all are able to have the necessary information to make a very strong debate and consideration of the level of abatement for each one of these projects. Again, our job at SLDC is to provide you all with the information to go through the legislative process. And then once that ordinance is passed and sent back to LCRA, we then have a scope in which we're able to enter into a redevelopment agreement with the developer itself. So again, first, LCRA, for example, for tax abatement, will evaluate these projects. We send that information over to the Board of Aldermen. You all review it, debate it, make any amendments that's necessary, and then send it back to LCRA once the legislation is passed. And then based on the legislation, we have the now the structure to enter into a redevelopment agreement and then finalize the transaction. But again, no abatement is awarded until every one of these measures are met, including our WMBE. And then we double check every lien waiver to ensure that those WMBEs that are listed within that scope have been fully paid before we send any documentation to the assessor's office to award the abatement. So we do our full review and compliance and monitoring on our side before abatement is awarded. So even after the Board of Aldermen approves an abatement, LCRA enters into a redevelopment agreement, there are several steps that a developer must go through and meet before they are awarded that final abatement. So I just, again, appreciate everyone's time. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for the opportunity for SLDC to present our updated policy and process, and we'll definitely open it up for any questions.
I thank you so much for the presentation, extremely thorough. You've made me happy, and you know I've been happy a long time because we're going in the right direction. I never have believed that it was required of an alderperson to have a lot of input on these deliberations, because that is not who we are. That is not our lane. As legislators, we should always allow the professional departments to do their job and to get information when it is completed, not interfering all the time, so that it's too complicated to even complete a process. And so I'm very appreciative of you getting the assistance that you needed to put it in a professional package. The compliance part is just, it was so mandatory, and I'm just so happy. And also having the ability for us to look at information at a drop of a buck, it's just incredible. The entire community, there's no questions anymore. I just love it. And so I want to open it up for questions for our committee members. And I'm just smiling so much. You just made my day. So can we start now with Alderman Cohen, please?
I don't have any questions at this time. I do appreciate the thoroughness of SLDC with respect to this process and also the scorecard. And we'll certainly be following up with Zach and Neil with any direct feedback or comments that I have related to that. And, this is definitely an exciting step in our journey towards changing the way we do business around here. So appreciate your due diligence and efforts in that. And I will follow up with you all directly with additional questions as I continue to digest the information that you've shared here today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Alderman Kotar. Oh, he may have left for a moment. I know he was going in and out of meetings. Alderwoman Boyd.
No questions.
Okay. Alderman Gunther.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I share the sentiment of everyone that this is a big step for SLDC, so thank you. My only question. Feedback.
Yeah.
All right. My only question is in regards to your point system with historic preservation receiving only 2 points. In my experience, it seems like sometimes the only properties that I've offered any sort of abatement on were ones where it's a historic property that maybe only has 3 walls. And when you're looking at rebuilding, and restoring and kind of trying to keep pieces of property intact, I was just kind of wondering how that only got 2 points, and if there's other considerations for how much it costs to rebuild some of the properties that are very dilapidated in our city. So that's my only question.
Yeah, to be honest, the point system is not finalized. We got a couple of things we have to iron out with the recommendations from the planning department. So I would love to send this packet out to you once those final point systems come out. So I love to delve into that a little bit more, but I do believe the historic preservation points are going higher than that, what we're looking at. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman Gunther. Cultural Resources has reached out to about the historic preservation, and so we'll be looking deeper into that. And so we'll be providing the final scorecard and the package for you all to provide any feedback. But then also, this is a living scorecard and will continue to be updated as neighborhood plans are also updated. So as we're basing this on certain census tracts in neighborhoods. If there is a neighborhood plan that's in place, for example, and the neighborhood says we want more of a retail presence, we can update the scorecard for that neighborhood specifically to reflect the needs and desires of a particular neighborhood. So I think it's going to be very critical that SLDC partners with planning, but also the various wards and neighborhoods that you all represent to really work on establishing those neighborhood plans and elevating the needs and desires of your residents for us to incorporate that into our scorecard. And so as we think about how we partner together to meet the needs of your constituents, is being able to communicate to SLDC proactively, what are the needs of your community? What type of economic development do they want to see in their neighborhoods? And for us to then put that in place, and within that scorecard, that can be reflective as we evaluate those development projects. So that's, again, something that's to come as we continue to evolve our process.
Interesting.
Wonderful. Thank you. No further questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Alderman Narayan?
Thank you, Chairwoman Davis. Just wanted to thank SLDC for the presentation. Glad to see that we're moving forward on the way that we do business here in the city. Thank you so much.
Okay, Alderman Todd.
I don't have any questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, Alderwoman Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions at this time. I just want to thank SLDC for the very informative information that was
Okay.
received.
Thank you. Alderwoman Peel.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. This is great that we're moving forward on these plans. One question I had was, I wanted to ask you, you said they're going to be a third party evaluating the analysis, some national experts. I was wondering who that would be.
That's Baker Tilly, who created the scorecard itself, and they have worked with developers across the country as well as municipalities. And so they have a database full of projects that they evaluate to understand material costs, understanding the developer fees, understanding the trends in the construction industry that can be shared with SLDC as we're evaluating these, as they're evaluating these projects in partnership with us.
Thank you. You mentioned that these projects are going to be vetted publicly, and what does that mean exactly? Like, how is that going to, what is that process? I mean, I know that you talked about the plan and the process with that, but are there any more specifics regarding vetting publicly?
You want to speak to that, Zach, and some of the neighborhood meetings that are required for projects?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the project. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe something over like $30 to $40 million would be a certain amount of neighborhood meetings for a project. If it's a smaller project, support letters from the neighborhood. But all this material would be on our website. Each application will be on our website moving forward. As soon as we get the application, it'll be online. So the public would know what we're looking at. So there's no sunshine requests moving forward for things like applications, things, those type of things.
Okay, thank you. And I look forward to the final plan. This is, you're still making some updates, I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, but we are adopting this January 24th at LCRA, so we should have everything out to you by then. So.
Wonderful.
Will we be receiving that information before it goes to the LCRA?
We could, yes, we should be all squared away before then. So.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Gross.
Yeah, I really want to echo a lot of the comments we've heard so far and congratulate you guys on the work you've done on this. You know, I think the framework that you guys have made and the overall rubric, I mean, it's exactly what everybody wants. You know, it's what both sides want. All the critics want, you know, open, transparent development. We know what's going on ahead of time, so we, you know we don't, it doesn't seem like someone's trying to pull one or there's anything shady going on. And at the same time, developers want this. because, you know, they need to be able to look at a project and kind of know what's going on ahead of time, and not be every single project have to be a black box where they're going on and starting from scratch each time. So, you know, I just really want to, I think that this is, you know, overdue, but, you know, I congratulate you guys for doing it. I think it's important. I think all the factors that you guys listed out are really, you know, seem complete going through them. It seemed like you guys put a lot of thought into them, into the criteria you're using. I, you know, would like to see the slides. You know, I kind of, you know, I devil in the detail a little bit, but, you know, the point breakdowns, I would just have to look at them more. So, I mean, I don't know that. And I guess my question would be, so this, and I think I understand this, but just kind of to clarify for everyone, this scorecard, the criteria, all this is something that you guys are using internally to score the product. I'm not internally, but, you know, this is what you guys are using. If you guys want to say make adjustments to you know, the scorecard and the points thing, you guys can do that kind of as you see fit and be nimble, right? I mean, this isn't something like the Board of Aldermen needs to approve this scorecard or anything like that. Or are you guys envisioning that this goes part of a board bill, or what are you guys thinking?
LCRA would, if we change the scorecard, LCRA would have to approve the scorecard changes. So,
Okay.
And like any new thing, we'd see how it's performing, then probably come back to you guys, say, this is what's going on, this is why we're changing the scorecard. So we'd be coming back in front of HUD, informing you guys what trends that we're seeing and why would we changing the scorecard in a certain way. But that's how I see moving forward. LCRA would adopt a new scorecard. We'd be coming back to you in front of you and inform you why we're making those changes. So,
okay, so the LCRA board are going to be the folks that are actually going to approve the scorecard.
Correct.
Okay.
Like on the resolution we passed in 2018, kind of helped. We LCRA adopted a map for projects under $1 million of what incentives are available for those type of projects. It's a very helpful map. The public understands that, they clearly get it. We envision something similar to that. LCRA adopts something, then a resolution can be easily passed at the Board of Aldermen supporting that type of scorecard or policy adopted by LCRA.
That makes sense. Well, nothing further at this time, and I look forward to seeing how it kind of starts working in practice.
Yeah, and that's one thing, Alderman Gross, I really appreciate those comments, is LCRA and SODC overall wants to be in alignment with the Board of Aldermen. And so as we pass those resolutions, being able to share that resolution with the full board, and hopefully that we can have some partnership and some agreement, a codification of that within the Board of Aldermen, maybe through a resolution, just so we have some clear understanding of LCRA, SODC passed it as a process and policy, and it's being formally recognized by the Board of Aldermen as the policy for the city. And as we make any adjustments, then that will require us to come back before you to amend any resolution that was previously approved. Just that way we keep in alignment, keep connection as we move things forward, because we truly see this as a working relationship and partnership.
No, a lot of that makes sense. I really think it does. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Alderman Lappy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple of real quick clarifying questions. But first, like, thank you both for coming here. This really addresses some of the concerns that I named at the last HUD's meeting. So I appreciate that. I do have a question. Is the enforcement or the enforcement stuff for like the quality jobs and for the affordable housing, is that still being worked out, how that's going to work? Or do we have a sense of like how those things are going to be like tracked and enforced already?
Yeah, usually it's reduction in abatement, or abatement goes away, they don't hit the marks. Also, there's could be fines on other types of benchmarks that have not hit. The problem is some of the older abatements and older TIFs do not have those clawbacks, so we cannot force things like that. So moving forward, those are the things we're looking to put in all redevelopment agreements.
And so like, the keeping track of like whether they're hitting those benchmarks for the jobs at the prevailing wage rates, is that based on the developer reporting to the agency? Is that
Well,
how
during construction, our minority compliance department monitors the prevailing wage for the construction period and for any type of contractor on that site. The issue is movement after construction is completed. We would have to monitor the type of wages that are at that location. So each incentive is a little bit different. Normal tax abatements for residential, where there's not much oversight in income, but enterprise zone incentives are all job based. So those are the types of projects we'd be monitoring a little heavy on what the wages are and those type of things.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, Alderman.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
We implemented a new software system called Headcount during the construction period, and I actually have compliance managers that go out to the site and scan the badges for the construction workers to ensure that who the developer is saying should be on the site is actually the people on the site. We also check the wages that are entered into the system. We meet not just with the general contractors, but with the subcontractors, those women and minority-owned contractors, to make sure that what's been entered into the system matches up to the invoices that they've been paid, that their contracts that they have with the developer and with the general contractor actually match up with the invoices. And so we've done some significant overhaul of our technology software for the compliance components of the program, added additional compliance managers. We've actually added 2 new workforce development compliance managers that go out to the site again and work with the individuals to ensure that who they're saying is on the site actually exists, that person exists. So we're double verifying all of this information. And again, if the lien waivers, if we don't have all of the information to clear a project, then we will not send the necessary information over to the assessor's office to award the abatement. And so we have a lot of developers that, you know, are getting sometimes frustrated with our compliance team, but we need that documentation and information in order to close out a deal. And so they're getting used to it. The developers are, that they know they have to provide this information up front. We no longer just meet with the general contractors, we meet with the developers too. So everybody's in the room. At the same time, they get the same information. And when the project is ready to be closed out, we send that documentation over to the assessor's office, and then the abatement is awarded. Until then, they'll just sit on our desk. So that's just the way that we have to operate moving forward.
That's great. Thank you all. I have no further questions. Thanks.
All right, sir. Alderwoman Keys.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and bravo SLDC. Great presentation. The one concern that I had was raised by the 9th Ward, Alderman Gunther. North City is rich with historic houses, and we would love to see those houses preserved and brought back to life. And so I'm looking forward to all the great things that you guys bring to the table.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Walker.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, SLDC, for the presentation. I'm excited as well for this to be able to reach the public and their ability to be able to just log in and see everything that's happening. So that transparency factor is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the committee. President Richardson, one of the things that I took note of as I was listening to everyone, most people don't realize how important it is for our neighborhoods to have development committees. residents should be as educated as possible so that they can weigh in on decisions about housing and business development in their wards. That is a critical point for them. And I remember back when Soulard was growing, and sometimes you need more than one development committee because of some of these areas and the historic homes that are in them. Soulard required 2 neighborhood organizations, one for restoration and one for regular neighborhood issues. So I am going to suggest to all that as we're in this planning process, I'm watching, some don't have neighborhood organizations, but as I see our planning department is encouraging and establishing neighborhood associations, that is critical. And what I wanted to ask you is, as you all are looking at the final version of this, is there a way, or am I missing something? The neighborhood input, is there a point for it anywhere, whether that's they send in a letter of support or denial or whatever, but is there a point in there for neighborhoods?
Yes, it depends on the size of the project. The larger the projects, there would have the neighbor engagement before you guys would even see it, or LCRA would see it. So,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go back and read it thoroughly. Okay.
Yeah, and then some smaller projects do require local neighborhood letters of support.
Okay.
But again, we also don't want to put an additional burden on like smaller developers that are, just have a $1 million project. Of course, we always take the community and neighborhood input though into it. So if there is a project that you all see within your wards and you have those neighborhood development entities, please inform us, whether it's a small project or a large project. We are definitely willing to take that in, but as a policy, we have to institute something that's more equitable. So we're always willing to take that input.
Okay. One of the things I'm going to ask of you, because I think we should use this time wisely in educating the public, as well as our aldermanic persons. I'd like to explore again in more detail the actual graph that you have prepared that showed incentives. I think you went back to like 2010 maybe on that graph, because most people don't realize the majority of what is done in the city is done without incentives. And most people don't know that. So we really need to delve into that and show people that investment for a city is the only thing that you have in order to grow and bring stability to a city. We don't sell mugs or t-shirts. We don't sell pizzas. We sell livable communities that people will want to work, live, and play in. And so the development process is a very, very, very important process. And it supports a number of other amenities that make the quality of life good for the city. And so what we have now is we are truly going into the 22nd century, and we've been behind for a while. We tried to get it off the ground in 2018, but we had a lot of stumbling blocks. We did a few things, but we are very, very close to where we need to be. And I want to appreciate that. And I want to give all my support to it, even though I may not be on the inside in the future, but I will be on the outside. I'm always a part of the city of St. Louis and its viability, because I believe in that. But if we can do that, if we can find a way to make sure that we give more explanation to the tax and TIF experience that we've had for the city, so that people can feel more comfortable. You've heard me say it more than once. This extremism that we have put onto this community about the sky is falling because of TIFs and tax abatement is not true. And we need to make sure that residents, business investors, and others believe in this city and want to help us grow. So, and educating people is the best way to do that. So I thank you so much. You all are doing a good job. And for the future also, sir, can we also explain more about the MBWBE and have a presentation on that? Because it has improved greatly as well. And we need the public to know that.
Yeah, that'd be great. We would love
Okay.
to. Please, anytime, we'll come
All
back.
Okay. I thank you so much. And I'm going to say to the committee members, if anybody has thought of something, just open your mic and speak up before we end this part of our discussion.
You know, I did have one quick question on the scorecard about minority and women-owned developers. How are you guys planning on looking at that from a compliance perspective, as far as like a developer that's a a company, LLC, like I just you don't want to see people try to take advantage of situations by I don't know, being dishonest. So I was just wondering what the compliance would look like for a developer, MBE.
So we have a process, a certification process for all developers, all general contractors, subcontractors to go through. So that's held at the airport because the certification is regional wide. It's not just limited to the city. However, we now have local people that is focused on city developers, contractors that are going to be located at Sumner High School to help with that process. But they're evaluated and then they go before a board of professionals that review their documentation to ensure that those businesses are in fact owned by women or a minority group before they are certified. And then once they have their certification, then they get credit for that through the scoring system.
Okay, I think that's a great approach, that you guys just kind of have people look at the documents and make a decision, as opposed to trying to say, if a company's owned this percent or that percent or something like that. So
There's a very strenuous process. We're looking at that too, because sometimes I think even our historically well-known minority-owned businesses have even some challenges getting through because it's so stringent, and they do a lot of oversight there on their P&Ls, their balance sheets, making sure that they actually are qualified for those particular industries and they're not being used as shell companies. So we'll definitely be willing to come back and give a full presentation on the WMBE certification process and how we monitor that work as well. But that's a great question, Alderman Gross.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I want to just say thank you again, and I'm looking forward to all the progress and most especially the future for people to interact with the new way you do business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next discussion had been listed. We were going to have Slate make a presentation, but we had a hiccup and we're going to reschedule it for next week's presentation list. And also, we're now going to go on and we're going to discuss the first part of the TIDE plan, which is housing. And what I'd like to do is, I think you have it in your Google Drive. Alderman Todd has sent some information on what it is that what he has concern about. And what we wanted to do was have a discussion, and then we can bring in the appropriate entities who will explain programming that is currently in place and or in process that addresses those concerns. But for the knowledge that we have among us today, to get some of that ironed out and make sure that we are inviting in the appropriate entities, I'd like to discuss the housing portion of the Todd plan today. And so Alderman Todd, could you give us a brief opening statement, and then we'll move forward through the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Let me give you a very brief statement. The housing, there's a lot of love that's been put in these houses before we even were born, all of us.
Mhm.
There's a lot of architecture that was put into these houses. So there's a lot of, so just to start it off, and then when all these houses were burning in these other in other cities in the early 1900s, we had brick houses, and those houses were steady. When we had a storm, and some of y'all, most of you don't remember 1958, the roof blew off of these houses, but these houses were still standing. So what is the main point? To quickly go up to the date. For many years, we've had these houses boarded up on one floor. After the inclement weather, and sometimes, especially in the wintertime, you have thawing, freezing. I mean, you have freezing and then thawing. When that happens, eventually it's going to cause a lot of structural damage. And in many cases, it will those bricks will the roof will collapse at first. In many cases, then water will get between those bricks, and eventually the bricks will pop out, and then we have a dangerous situation. But in addition to that, it's very so it's dangerous when they're only it's an eyesore. But also we have businesses, and the fewer people you have, the fewer businesses, the fewer houses you have, and people, the more schools close down. The cost of doing business go up because you have fewer customers, and the businesses have to survive to take care of the business costs at the same rate, whether you have a lot of people or not. The other thing, even schools close. We have our tax base shrink. And also for crime, we have fewer eyes to watch and we also have a cost that goes up with the LRA, for example. $15 million every year it is estimated that it costs just to cut the vacant lots. But those LRA lots don't produce any taxes. So it's a cost, but they also drain workers. We need workers. So when we say we have a shortage, for example, in forestry, some people complain because they cut the grass, then they cut the weeds, grass, and other vegetation, and they don't clean up. Well, the point is, if you don't have the staff, when you are continually stretching your staff thin for these houses being torn down, of course, we're gonna have a problem. Then we have additional staff and call for our neighborhood improvement specialists for the older people. And so, it's a vicious cycle. So the main point is, we could stop this vicious cycle or reduce it by boarding the buildings up on all floors for 2 years, and we could save many of these buildings. And then to tuck point, we used to have independent contractors, they would tuck pointers. And then to take away generational wealth, especially for Black people. And so it's just and it's gentrification, meaning that the people with white people predominantly, and some Blacks who have income, pushes the people out who need our wonderful city, because we had the best one of the most greatest city in the world. Public transportation, great, all kinds of public transportation and all kinds of other things I don't need to talk about, because all the great things our city has to offer. So we need diversity in income and every other way. So the point is, we need to start saving our houses. We need to and boarding them up on all floors. and in the long run, it will pay for themselves. And then too, the last thing is that they say, where's the money gonna come from? Well, HUD's, I'm using HUD's. I remember, I won't call the person, they fixed up the Chase Park Plaza with some HUD's money. When they write for, when the proposal is written for the HUD's money, I haven't read it, but I heard, when I hear the word urban, it's written for the poor Black people. Let me be perfectly frank. That's my opinion. And when we start fixing up the Chase Park Plaza and many of these other places, I think that we can put windows, we can put board up on all floors, put windows in buildings, and we can bring our neighborhood back, and that would free up money for salaries for our workers. All of our workers who are doing something that enhances the life and benefits the taxpayers should have, we should pay them top salary, all of them.
Okay, Alderman Todd, we're getting off the topic.
Okay,
We're
then,
talking
but the
about
point
housing
is,
development.
thank you for giving me that time. So that's the point. I was respect you, Madam Chair. Thank you for for giving me the time to summarize.
All right, sir, thank you. So before I go through the committee, I took notes while Alderman Todd was talking. I had already prepared some notes. And so I'll give us reference for this discussion. And before we bring in and the appropriate entities that we'll bring in to give us presentations, understanding, and education will be the Affordable Housing Commission, the Building Division, and CDA, so that we can have understanding where all funding comes from. We can understand how housing development is incentivized or not through the city of St. Louis, and also making sure that we understand how the Building Division makes their decisions and how maybe we can help improve that. For those of you all who don't read every darn thing that comes along like I do, there is some interest even on the state level about boarding properties more securely. So we might see some things really happening to improve the safety part of that particular issue that the alderman had mentioned. So what I'd like to do now is start with our committee list, and hopefully we'll get some other interest and ideas, because the TIDE plan can be shared by all. It don't just belong to Jesse TIDE. It can be shared by all and get to some things that we need to be addressing. Alderman Cone. Alderman Cone, did you have any, did he leave?
I'm still here, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions
There
or
you go.
comments.
Yes, sir. All righty. Did you have any comments?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. Alderman Coder, are you back? No. Alderwoman Boyd?
I have no comments.
All right. Alderman Gunther?
No comments.
Okay. Alderman Narayan?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
All right. Here we go. Alderwoman Evans?
No questions at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alderwoman Peel?
No comments at this time.
Thank you. Alderman Gross?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Lappy?
Yeah, no questions at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Alderwoman Keys? Alderwoman Keys? Okay. Alderwoman Walker? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, I was having a little issue with unmuting.
Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Todd, for that information, and I totally agree with you. We have some gorgeous houses in the city of St. Louis, and we have a lot of seniors that are over 70 and 80 and 90 years old, and we should be doing something to help them preserve those brick houses. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to reiterate again that we will have presentations done by the Community Development Agency, Affordable Housing, and the Building Division. All of those presentations not only will be helpful for us to get to some additional things and places that we should be for the future, but also helping to educate the public as well as new alderpersons on exactly how these things operate, how funding is used, and what resources are there. There are a lot of resources that we don't refer our constituency to that is available to them. And you know what? We probably need to do the Department of Human Services, because we constantly talk about seniors, and they probably have about 15 programs that support seniors. So let's do Department of Human Services as well. Okay. Now it's open. Does any committee person have anything that they would like to put on the agenda for next week and or that they need to discuss today? Please feel free just to open your mic. Hearing none. Madam Clerk, were all members present at some point?
Yes, ma'am. All members are present.
That's what I thought. Thank you very much. And we're ready to adjourn. We did good in an hour and 15 minutes. That was a lot. Okay. So I'm looking forward to our meeting next week. Please know, every Thursday, 9 a.m., you have a HUD's committee meeting scheduled until the closing of this session, and that date will be determined in the future. Okay? So I ask for adjournment.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
And I know that all are in favor, and we shall say aye.
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 Thank you.
Be safe.
All righty.